Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down something absolutely critical for any project management office, proving your value. Because it's not just about doing good work, right? It's about showing the tangible impact you're making. All right, let's just jump right in with the big question. This is the challenge every single PMO leader has to wrestle with. How does the rest of the company see you? Are you just overhead, a line item on a budget? Or are you seen as a strategic partner, someone who's actually driving the business forward? Honestly, the answer to that question changes everything. I mean, let's be real. In today's business world, just doing the work isn't enough. You have to justify your team's existence. Your budget, your resources, your influence, it all hinges on providing cold, hard proof of your value. This is how you go from being a support function to being an absolutely essential part of the business. So, that really gets to the heart of the problem we're tackling today. How does a PMO stop being just busy and start being truly impactful? And maybe more importantly, how do you prove it to everyone else? And the answer, the solution here, is this idea called value delivery. Look, this isn't about making a long list of all the projects you finished. No, this is about showing the concrete benefits, the measurable outcomes that those projects actually created for the organization. It's the bridge that connects what your PMO does to what the company achieves. Okay, and this is a really, really important distinction to make. Delivering value and getting recognized for that value, they are two totally different things. Value delivery, that's about the facts, the data, the objective proof. Value recognition is what comes next. That's about telling the story and shaping how people perceive that value. You absolutely cannot have the second part without the first. Okay, so now that we've separated those two ideas, let's get into the weeds. If we're going to measure our impact, we have to agree on what we're actually measuring. So the source material breaks this down for us really nicely. It gives us 7 key areas to measure. And when you start tracking all of these together, you don't just get a bunch of random data points. You start to build a complete, powerful story about your PMO's real contribution. You know, the kind of story that executives actually listen to. So the first 3 you see here, they're all about what you could call execution excellence. Performance impact, that's the basics, right? Hitting your targets for scope, schedule, and budget. Operational efficiency, that's about making everything run smoother, faster. And cost management, well, that's about being smart with the company's money. These are kind of the table stakes for any great PMO. And then these next 4, this is where we really elevate the conversation, from just executing projects to making a strategic contribution. Risk mitigation shows how you're protecting the business from what could go wrong. Resource optimization proves you're using your most valuable assets, your people, in the smartest way possible. Strategic alignment is huge. It shows you're working on the right stuff. And customer satisfaction is key too. We're not talking about a vague feeling, but real feedback on the actual outcomes you delivered. And this is where the rubber meets the road, right? It shows how you turn a big idea, like greater alignment, into a number you can actually track, like the percentage of projects that tie directly back to a strategic goal. This is how you start speaking the language of the business. All right, so we know what to measure, but how do we actually do it? I mean, it's one thing to know the metrics. It's a whole other thing to build a system that can track them consistently. Well, the source lays out this super clear 5-step plan. So first, you establish a framework. You decide what you'll measure and how you'll get the data. Simple enough. Then you conduct your analysis. You collect the numbers and you start looking for patterns. Step 3 is crucial. You evaluate the benefits against what your stakeholders actually said they wanted. Then you synthesize and communicate. You build that story. And finally, step 5, you refine and realign. It's a loop. You use what you learned to get even better. It's a fantastic, repeatable process. And that quote really nails it, doesn't it? The big takeaway here is that this is not just about collecting data for a report that nobody reads. It's about using those numbers as the building blocks for a compelling story, a narrative that explains why your PMO's work matters. Okay, so we've got the what and we've got the how. Now it's time to kind of turn the lens on ourselves for a minute. Let's get real about where we are today. The source gives us this really simple, but honestly pretty effective self-assessment to help you figure out where your PMO stands right now in this whole value delivery journey. It's a great way to get a quick gut check. So take a look at this and be honest with yourself. Thinking about how your own PMO works, how you report, the metrics you track, how you communicate. Where do you fall on this spectrum? Are you kind of stuck down in the critical or poor range, just trying to define your value?
Or are you pushing into good or excellent with a really solid system for proving your impact? And that little bit of self-reflection leads us right into our final and maybe the most important point of this whole explainer. Because you can do everything right. You can have the best data, the most amazing metrics, a library full of success stories. You can follow that 5-step process to the letter. But even with all of that, the job is not done, because just having the results doesn't automatically mean you get the recognition and the influence you deserve. And that's the cliffhanger, right? That's the bridge to the whole next part of the journey. You've worked hard to deliver value, but now, how do you get it recognized? And it leaves us with this one big question to think about. What's the real difference between just being effective and being seen as absolutely essential?